trade isn't allowed to if the trade happens, it's because both people think they're better off after the trade. And so anytime you prevent people from being able to trade with somebody else, you're preventing the world from being a better place. If you send $1,000 to Apple for your iPhone, it's because you think the iPhone is worth more to you in your life than the $1,000 you have. And Apple thinks that the $1,000 you give them is worth more than the iPhone that they produce. So both of you are richer after the trade. Same story when you go to the supermarket. If you buy some food at the supermarket, it's because you value the food more than the money you gave the supermarket, and the supermarket values the money that they got from you more than the food that they gave you. So both of you are richer afterwards. So if you're preventing people from going to work and trading, and the same is true with your employer too. When you go to work and work for an employer, the employer values the work that you do more than he values the money that he gives to you, and you value the money that you get from him more than the work that you do for him. So like both people are better off. And so suddenly if you have the government all over the world telling everybody, you're not allowed to go to work, you're not allowed to go to the store, you're not allowed to trade with people, you're literally preventing the world from making it a better place than it otherwise would have been. And this is a disaster, not just for the individuals involved, but for the entire human race as a whole as well. So it really needs to come to a stop as soon as possible. People need to be able to get back to work and do whatever it is they want in their life and start trading with other people and start making the world a better place.
I think this is exactly, I think you bring really strong points there. So, in the vision that you're envisioning here, it's that, just boom, cold cut, everyone goes back to work, make your own decisions. If you're a high risk category, you stay at home and everybody just lives their lives as they want to. Because I think a lot of people are very happy to stay home because they maybe have this fear-based mindset of the virus, and so they can stay home. But for those who want to go out, want to work, you're saying just open the gates. Let's get it done right now.
Yeah, great summary. And yeah, people are dying, but people die of diseases, every day all over the world. Staying in bed all day is dangerous too, right? Like getting out of bed in the morning is dangerous. Like everything is dangerous in life. So like you need to figure out and decide, what risks are worth taking and which ones aren't. So like I saw some dumb politician on YouTube the other day. I think it was like the governor of New York or something like that, saying like, you shouldn't ever put a price on a human life, right? Like there's no amount of work, but like people put prices on human lives every single day. Like it's not fun or nice to think of it that way, but like it's like they're talking, we can't afford to take any risks whatsoever. Well, think about it, like driving a car. How many fewer accidents would there be if nobody was allowed to drive faster than 10 miles an hour, right? And no car could ever go more than 10 miles an hour. Almost nobody would ever die in a car accident ever again. So you'd save, hundreds of thousands of lives around the world. But the cost isn't worth it, right? People would rather be able to drive faster than 10 miles an hour, knowing that more people will die in car accidents around the world, but the benefit to the individuals involved, the benefits outweigh the risks involved. And the same is true with like coronavirus. Yeah, maybe you'll get coronavirus, maybe you'll die, but like still being able to go out into the world and do your things and take whatever precautions you feel are appropriate, that's a risk worth taking for some people, and for other people it won't, right? I'm sure there's some people, I've seen some people occasionally that don't drive faster than 10 miles an hour, right? So
right.
There's some people that will stay home as well because they're scared of the coronavirus, and people should be, for the most part, free to do those sorts of things. If you're driving less than 10 miles an hour everywhere, maybe you can find your own road to do it on. But for the coronavirus, if you're that scared, stay home. More power to you for staying home if you want to, but don't threaten the rest of the world with violence trying to force them to do the same thing.
For sure. And you mentioned, the sacrifice of lives, kind of like in this big balance of, risk versus reward. And that's essentially how life operates. The government right now is locking everybody in. The economy is getting crushed in multiple senses. I think oil just dipped to its lowest level since 1999, a few hours ago. So where do you feel that there's bigger forces at play, maybe to like dip a toe in the conspiracy theory pot a bit, or like behind the big black curtain? Or do you think that they're just being so reactionary to the public's opinion and like the brute force of the people saying like, keep people inside? I think that's the overwhelming majority. There might not be as many people in the same camp as you are. I think more people are living in fear. So do you feel it's more reactionary, or do you feel that, they're really like, because there's hyperinflation happening? I'm curious your thoughts is what's really happening, if they're really stupid or if there's a bigger plan at play right now.
I don't think it's a bigger plan at play. I think it's just a lot of monkey see, monkey do type of stuff. Right. And where people just see everyone else is wearing a mask and not getting their haircut. Like I can't get a haircut and I better wear a mask too. And that's how humans have evolved over millions of years, is they see what other people are doing and you imitate it, and that's probably a safe thing because everybody else that's still alive you can see doing something. Well, they made it this far, they're still alive, and the people that maybe did something else, maybe they didn't survive, right? And there's a really interesting like psychological experiment you can see. It's on YouTube where they take monkeys in a cage, right? And they put grapes in the cage, right? But like the floor of the cage is electrocuted or something. And anytime the monkey, like there's like maybe 5 monkeys in the cage. If the monkeys try and grab the grape, they all get zapped and they get electrocuted, right? And so like nobody wants to get electrocuted. So the monkeys learn real quick, don't grab the grape, right? And then they cycle out one monkey and they put in a new monkey that doesn't know about that he'll get electrocuted if he grabs the grape. And they put the grape in, and then the monkey says, oh, great, I'm gonna go grab the grape. But all the other monkeys know that, oh, you'll get zapped. So they prevent him from grabbing the grape. And the other monkeys stop him from doing it because they don't want to get zapped. And then they rotate another new monkey in and one more out. And then all the monkeys prevent him from getting the grape because they don't want to get zapped. And then they rotate all brand new monkeys in, where now there's none of the monkeys left in the cage that know about getting zapped, but none of them will get the grape. And when they rotate a new one, all these monkeys that have no idea why, they're preventing the new monkey from grabbing the grape. And none of them have any idea why they're doing that. It's just monkey see, monkey do. And I think that same thing applies to, you know, the human societies as well. They see everybody else doing something and they figure, oh, I better do it too. And they don't stop to question, like, why am I doing this, right? Why is everybody else doing this? Is this the right thing to do? And I would like to think that people can be smarter than monkeys and figure it out. But a lot of them don't seem to do that. They just do absolutely whatever everyone else is doing, and they don't stop to think for a minute if it makes sense or not.
Oh, 100%. That ties in really well to the traditions that we're raised with. It's like, okay, every Easter, we're going to put eggs around the yard and go find some eggs. It's like these traditions or these monkey see, monkey do things with the zapping. It's all, I feel like traditions were just placing our faith that the people before us knew what's best. And so we're going to continue to do that, even though yet we have no idea what the relevance is anymore. So yeah, I think looking to external sources for validation is relevant at times. You know, we were talking about Darwinism with the masks, but man, there needs to be some kind of balance there because it gets out of hand really fast.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's not as bad as the Salem witch trials were, but everyone saw witches everywhere in the past, and they were all terrified, and everybody thought that there were witches everywhere. Now I kind of feel like the whole world is seeing coronavirus everywhere, and like, yeah, there's some, but like, you know, people get sick and die all the time. Like that's part of life, right? People die. So if people didn't die at the end of life, life wouldn't be called anything. It would just be the existence. So that always is and always was. So.
Whereas Elon Musk calls it the simulation.
Could be, right? So.
Yeah. So looking at the traditional economy and then extrapolating that, because we're having a lot of hyperinflation in the United States right now, massive bailouts going to big companies. And I think this has been, you know, especially for cryptocurrency, a really pivotal moment to shine and come through. A lot of us have been waiting for this big, you know, we talk about the bubble of 2017 in crypto, but the bubble of traditional markets has been phenomenal. And so the big pop happened. Maybe the pin was coronavirus. I think the symptoms were already laid out there. Coronavirus was just like the thing that they could place the blame on, the scapegoat. So how do you see cryptocurrency interacting with this current economic crisis, and what do you foresee potentially happening in the next little while?
Yeah, and this feels kind of like the economic crisis that everybody in cryptocurrency had been waiting for the last decade. Like this is finally crypto's chance to shine, but the fact of the matter is I don't think that there's enough infrastructure ready in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. There's not enough tools for people to bypass the government capital controls and all these different things that are going on in the world. And I think part of the reason why we don't have all that infrastructure is there is this nasty, nasty scaling civil war that went on within Bitcoin. And we actually had negative merchant adoption. We had companies like Microsoft and Dell Computer and Expedia literally stop accepting Bitcoin for payments due to that, the full blocks that got imposed on top of Bitcoin. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother podcast. But I think if we hadn't run into that scaling civil war within Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general would have been much more ready to take advantage of the world that we're seeing today. And instead, you know, Bitcoin's not ready, Bitcoin Cash isn't ready, Ethereum's not ready. Like there isn't a cryptocurrency that's really ready to play a major role in the world economy yet. We still have a lot more infrastructure building to be done. And instead of, you know, building infrastructure, a lot of time and resources and effort and money was diverted into arguing over the scaling debate within Bitcoin. So, which is disappointing.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, Bitcoin Cash, obviously Bitcoin Cash has been fueling that movement towards a scalable Bitcoin solution. And you guys did recently, I think, put together like a $200 million fund. I also saw you guys had some point of sale terminals that were rolling out. They were super cheap, really sexy, really sleek. So what do you see in terms of, like, let's put Bitcoin aside for now, but Bitcoin Cash, or like BTC, let's look at BCH. What do you see in terms of what infrastructure needs to be put in place? Or if you were to say, okay, if we would have backtracked this 6 months ago, had all of this infrastructure in place, and then this would have happened, potentially the crypto ecosystem would have really blossomed.
Yeah, I think we need more and deeper integration directly into the traditional financial rails. So you need more payment processors using digital currencies. You need more regular old bank accounts that give you access to buy and sell to and from cryptocurrencies from your dollars or euros or whatever in your normal bank account. The deeper cryptocurrencies can integrate with the traditional legacy financial system, the easier it is for people to transfer right over into just living solely in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So I want to see stock exchanges using digital tokens to represent the stocks that they're busy trading on those markets. So
Right.
like there's just anywhere and everywhere you see people using traditional dollars. I wish there was a bridge that people could also use stuff on the blockchain there, because the deeper you integrate with the traditional financial networks, the easier it will be for people to migrate from the traditional financial networks to these new ones that we're building in the world of cryptocurrency.
For sure. And I think it's a lot simpler of a transition, because when you can get an easy and sleek user interface and people won't even realize they're interacting with crypto, I think that's a lot easier transition than going from, say, cash to credit like we did, say, 20 years ago. So yeah, gotcha, for sure. Looking at just maybe for someone who isn't, I'm sure lots are, but just to kind of like, maybe beat a dead horse, what are the quick pros and cons of, BCH versus BTC? And yeah, just comparing those two really briefly.
Yeah, so I invite anybody that's new to this, try both, right? Try for yourself, see for yourself, and then think for yourself. Don't be a monkey see, monkey do person. Be a thinking, rational human being. And you can see that the Bitcoin Cash transactions are fast, cheap, and reliable. And then by the intentional design, the Bitcoin BTC transactions, by the intentional design of the software developers, not by chance, those transactions are slower, more expensive, and less reliable. And that's by their intentional design, by making the blocks full on purpose. And if you hear people say, oh, the fees are low on BTC now, well, that's a failure of the software engineers that are busy planning the roadmap in the future of Bitcoin, because they openly say they want the fees to be high. So if the fees are high, that's horrible for the user experience. If the fees happen to be low on BTC, well, that's horrible for the roadmap that the BTC core developers have laid out for the future. So either way, it's a failure for BTC. So any smart businessman needs something that works every day, long-term, quickly, cheaply, and reliably, and that's Bitcoin Cash. And if any smart investor, you invest where the capital is going to be in the future, not where the capital is already. And so I think the smart investors look at both BTC and BCH. BCH has way more upside potential. Bitcoin Cash has way more upside potential than the BTC version of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Cash has the possibility of becoming cash for the entire world in every economy, like everywhere. BTC, I don't know, it can be a speculative asset for some more people that like to engage in censorship and propaganda on the internet. So it's really been disappointing for me to see what happened to the BTC community. And they're busy engaging in censorship on something that was originally created to help people bypass censors, financial censors. So like, talk about a hypocritical doing the opposite thing. It'd be like I don't know, giving people cyanide pills and claiming you're a doctor or something. It's just crazy.
Right. I think potentially one of the biggest arguments that I'm seeing, I'm sure you'd see much more than I would, but advocating for BTC is the block sizes, how easy it is to run a node as an independent user potentially. What are your thoughts on that? What's the validity of smaller, larger block sizes, independence of running nodes?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuances there, but like, first of all, it's not very important for an individual user to be able to run a full node. You can just run an SPV wallet. You still have complete control over your own funds. You don't have to trust anybody. Nobody can freeze your account. Nobody can mess with it at all. And then second of all, like if you read the original writings of Satoshi in the original discussion, like the plan was never for users to run full nodes themselves. It was for like, companies would run full nodes and the users would use their lightweight, SPV clients. And if you look at what the end result here is too, so like let's say you manage to keep it so it's super easy and cheap for someone to run a full node themselves, but you only manage to get a couple million people in the entire world to use the system. What good was that? Whereas if you allow the nodes to scale with the amount of people using it, you get billions of people around the world using this platform, but it's too expensive for a home user to run a full node easily. I think that's a better outcome, right? Because you have the entire world using censorship-resistant money rather than a couple of crypto nerds running it on their Raspberry Pi, but you can't buy it, can't spend it at Starbucks or Safeway or whatever the supermarket chain is in your town. I want to see everybody using this and everybody having the tools to have complete control over their own money without having to get permission from anybody. And larger blocks is the way to do that. And if you study economics too, like the block space should be set by the market, not by a bunch of central planning, software developers, which is exactly what happened on the BTC network.
So, I feel like all these different currencies, because you have BTC